Good morning, everybody. I'm here with the amazing psychic Liz Cross. We're still in Flumas. Liz and her family have been, down with the flu all the holidays. So send your good energy. There, she's overcoming it right now, and enough to do, soldier through these probes. We're doing some health probes here, and we're not gonna make Liz ask how she's doing this morning because we already know, or at least I already know. So we're just gonna get right into it. Today we're going to talk about ibogaine or iboga, which is a psychedelic drug, and it's also, a naturally occurring compound in Africa. So for those of you that don't know, it comes from the root bark of the Tabernacle iboga shrub, and it's native to Central and West Africa. And actually, it's kind of a mystery of how it really works. It's not super well studied, but it interacts with our neurotransmitters and central nervous system. So, a lot of these act on the serotonin systems, dopamine systems, glutamate systems, and this one in particular, the opioid systems, because a lot of people have been using it as a way to get off of opioids and, serious drug addictions. And it seems to have a way to rewire the addiction centers in the brain in a way that you don't actually go through the same withdrawals. Like if you were addicted to opiates, obviously there's some serious withdrawals when you come off, and it seems to almost kind of hop over that section. And it has also an interesting. It's not really a recreational drug so much, because if you're doing the ibogaine, it's a little bit extreme where you're going through like almost like a life review. Some people report where you're looking at all of your traumas and kind of it seems to, you're processing it in some way and then coming out the other side. At least that's what it seems on the surface. So we're going to bring in our resident health expert, Mayway Ho, again and start asking some questions. So iboga is the substance that's natural, and ibogaine is the thing that we've synthesized from it to be more concentrated, I think. So the iboga, it's a little bit, I've actually taken some before, a little small amount. It's just a little like piece of bark, and you just chew it. And I didn't really notice anything, honestly. I didn't have that much. But what is first of all, let's just ask about the natural bark. What does Mei Wen Ho think of just chewing on the bark itself? Is that
Okay,
beneficial?
chewing on the bark itself. It's not as effective.
Okay. Are there any like beyond the psychedelic stuff, is there any benefit to chewing the bark or ingesting the bark?
Certainly benefit to chewing the bark or ingesting it. I feel it's the it's very small.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't notice anything. I didn't have a lot of it. All right. So let's talk about being used as a therapy, the ibogaine, which is a little bit more concentrated. It's made from the roots. And it's I think it's illegal in the United States, but in Canada and Mexico, they have clinics that you can go to if you have an opioid addiction or something else serious, and you can spend a few days at the clinic and they have medical, support there, and they will dose you with this ibogaine. And I want to ask what is it doing in these higher doses that it's helping with these people with their opioid addictions?
What is it doing with these higher doses? How is it helping them get? It's almost like something to do with receptors. It's switching receptors around. It's finding different ways to achieve the feel good chemicals, she says, without the need for the use of dangerous substances.
So it's kind of resetting that system. So for instance, if you're abusing these opioids, then you're constantly turning those reward centers on all the time. And they're just so like jacked up that if you stop uh, you know, activating them, then that's when you get the withdrawal system. So could we say it's like a really quick like reset of the reward system in the brain?
Is it like a reset of a reward system in the brain? Yes. Yes, it is.
And so like is there some sort of metaphysical thing going here on as well that is specifically targeting this, or is it just completely chemical that's happening?
Completely chemical? No, it's a rewiring of the brain as well. And is it part metaphysical? Yes.
And so is that the consciousness of the plant itself that's directing this?
Oh, is that the consciousness of the plant itself that's directing it? This plant works directly in line with the universe. It's the
In-
universe directing it.
Interesting. So then can I compare it to other psychedelics, like for instance, ayahuasca or magic mushrooms? Is it a different guiding force that's happening there that's more on the light side, if you would say? You could classify that.
Um, what if we were to compare it with other things like ayahuasca? What's the difference between that and ayahuasca? I mean, they can be similar, very similar. Um, this just doesn't seem to have as much potency as far as, the psychedelic is concerned.
Yes, that's what most people, it's not like a recreational drug you would take and go trip out somewhere, really. It's people would report it as being very intense, and you would do it for that specific purpose of rewiring the brain or even getting through trauma. Okay, but I'm interested in what you said that right there, where we were, the consciousness that's directing it, and you said that's the universe. So
Mhm.
what is that like a benevolent force always, or does it have the same pitfalls as other ones that may not be always benevolent?
Is it a benevolent force? Um, I mean, it's usually very good. I'm asking though, is this one of those psychedelics that can create a mental illness? I mean, she says all psychedelics can create a mental illness. It can create an imbalance, a chemical imbalance.
Yes. Yeah, and there's been reports that, people obviously again with like schizophrenia and even like heart conditions, like there's been adverse responses to this with people with pre-existing health conditions. So it's not, you definitely have to be careful for sure if you're going to go through with this or try this, like in the ibogaine form at least, anyways. Maybe not chewing the root, but definitely for this ibogaine. So yeah, there's definitely warnings there for people with pre-existing health conditions. Um, and I just like all this stuff. It has like a history of being in the traditional medicine of Africa, right? It's got a long history of being not maybe not the intense stuff that we're talking about now, but at least the bark. They've used it for centuries in religious ceremonies, right? Traditional ceremonies. Um, okay. What about, so we talked about the opioids and rewiring the brain. What about just like trauma in general? Is it effective in the same way as in rewiring the brain and overcoming traumas? First off, in this lifetime, let's ask about this lifetime.
Is it effective for overcoming traumas? I mean, it can be, yes.
And is it something, and I'm sure obviously intention is always the best, to direct things in the right way. But does it have an effect like you just take it and it kind of knows what to do? Or do you have to have the intention towards a specific trauma for it to do something?
Do you have to have the intention towards a specific trauma? Yes, you do.
Okay. So you would have to kind of know what you're you're trying to clear before you go in. Okay.
Before.
Um,
Well, yes, you have to sort of have some sort of goals, right?
okay. So what are the dangers metaphysically if any with this? Are you leaving yourself open for stuff to come in like you are with other psychedelics?
Open for stuff to come in like others. Okay. Yes, you are.
Okay. So it's not like it's any different than ayahuasca in that way where your your consciousness is floating around out in the ethers.
Is it any different from ayahuasca in that way? No, there's no different. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. All right, we're going to make a part 2 to this video because I have lots more to ask. And I also want to talk about entities and stuff like that to kind of, I have a bunch of questions about that entity attachment and stuff. I figured that'd be a good segue. So if you guys want to see the second part of this video, you need to become a member on our Patreon. So you can go to Patreon/remote viewing and beyond and support us there. You know, Liz is only asking a few dollars a month, and that's to keep it, you know, the information, there for everybody in a fair way, and to also help, keep the lights on for us here, right? So it does take a lot of time to put these probes together and do the probes and put the information on the Patreon and on the Discord. So we do appreciate everybody that supports us, and we welcome everybody that wants to also join us. And don't forget, we do CTT every Monday morning for our members, and that's, you can get all the great information in these videos, but if you have blockages, energetic blockages, you are going to hit a ceiling with a lot of this stuff. So it's not just about having the best practices. You have to also release those energetic blockages that prevent you from getting the full effect, or sometimes at most of the effect in some cases where we have serious energetic blockages. We all have them to varying degrees, and we have a pretty good darn way that we've found to help rewire the brain in a safe way, right? Without having to take any psychedelic drugs. So definitely encourage you to become a member so you can participate in that. All right, Liz, I think let's move on to the second video.
Yeah, all right. Exciting stuff today.
Yeah.
Just in time for the new year too. Awesome.